everyone, what's up and welcome back to another video on Streaming Star. It has become a trend for Netflix to release a movie filled with the spirit of Christmas. They do this every year to capitalize on the season of joy and happiness. Now, because they have to release a multitude of movies related to Christmas, the storylines of some of these movies suffer. Such is also true for their latest film, Operation Christmas Drop. Stated below are some reasons which will help you decide whether this movie is worth it or not. But before we begin, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss out on anything. Alright, let's get to it. Number 8. Based on real life. One of the features that stand out the most in this movie is that it is based on events that occur in real life. Operation Christmas Drop isn't just a catchy title of a Christmas movie, it is a real military activity that happens every year around the time of the holidays. This movie decided to capitalize and use this to their advantage as much as they could, as a result of their constant reminders to the audience that this was indeed based on real events. It started to feel like a recruitment video. Number 7. Chemistry between the leads. This movie is a romantic comedy that follows the life of a congressional aide who, instead of going home for the holidays, audits a military base. This character is played by Kat Graham. There she meets a pilot played by Alexandra Ludwig. From the very first moment they meet, they strike up a sort of a relationship based on constant teasing and casual banter. This has been portrayed excellently by the two actors, who have surprisingly good chemistry on and off screen. One of the scenes in this movie involved the two of them going somewhere in a car, and in that scene the banter between the two leads was enjoyable. Although the two actors haven't appeared in any huge films in the Hollywood, the potential for their success in the film industry is there. All throughout the film, we were constantly greeted with scenes of them bickering about the topic. And that was justifiable because the two of them were playing two entirely different characters, but after a while, it got a bit stale. Number 6. Lack of side characters. The main story of this movie revolved around the fact that the congressional aide had to cut the budget of some of the military bases. As the story went on, she was surprised at the work that was being done and the happiness that was being spread by the soldiers. As a result of her constant observations, she changed as a person. While all this was happening, she was slowly falling head over heels for a pilot. This was, believe it or not, the entire plot of the movie. There were no other characters that stood out other than the two main leads. There were not even any side stories involving some minor characters. Due to this, the audience was left longing for more from the film. Now, it is obvious that wanting a deep and involving story from a Christmas movie is wishful thinking. But it would have elevated the entire story to a whole new level had that been implemented. Number 5. Bad CGI. You would think that even when bad CGI is mentioned, it must have been related to the military setting. But that is not the case at all. The director and the production crew pretty much nailed the setting for this movie. They did this by shooting it on a real military base in Guam. And this was one of the very few and selected movies to have done so. The real problem with the CGI was the gecko that was present in some of the scenes. It was designed and animated so poorly that you would think that they had no money left to hire some decent animators. Number 4. Sentimentally sound. One reason to watch this film is that the sentiment behind this film is splendid. It is based on the spirit of giving gifts to people. Some of the scenes in this movie showcase the pilots dropping off packages to remote islands. This has become a tradition on some US bases, which makes one feel good to think about. Initially, the pilots were not really allowed to drop gifts on people, which is why they disguised this whole operation as a training exercise. There are many videos online that detail the story of these heroic pilots. Another part of the storyline that was really good was the change of heart that the congressional aide went through. She was initially extremely focused on cutting up budgets and reducing costs. But by the end of the film, as she witnessed the impact of those good deeds, she fell in love with the tradition and the people. This was a very heartwarming message that the movie delivered. Number 3. Stiff actors. Since the entire movie revolves around just two characters and their journey to multiple destinations, you would assume that the studio would have hired some decent actors, but in this movie the acting felt a bit stiff. As mentioned above, the chemistry of the two characters was indeed well executed, but when it came time for them to actually show their acting chops and to show the emotions that their characters were feeling, the actors failed to do so. This could be attributed to the fact that none of them were well experienced. They haven't appeared in any big Hollywood movies as main characters, and it showed. Their lack of experience gave the impression that the film was not as polished as it could have been. Number 2. Awkward writing. As previously mentioned, the two leads had great back and forth at times, but sadly these fluid and flawless conversations were seldom present in the movie. When it came time for the main characters to react to something, it seemed very obvious that the writing in that movie had not been finished properly. Most of the time it felt as if the writing was very awkward and the actors were just trying to get over it. Good writing is evident when the lines are smoothly delivered, but that was not the case here. During some conversations, it felt that one line had no connection to the previous one, and that the entire scene was written by some robot who had never seen real humans conversing with each other. As this was a Christmas movie, it had to be lighthearted and funny. This is why the writers added many jokes in the dialogue. Most of these made the person watching cringe at their delivery. Another major mistake made by the writers was that the timing of the jokes was slightly off. Good jokes should have sufficient momentum and build up, but that was not the case in this movie. Overall, the movie was enjoyable, but only if you could suffer through the forced jokes that had no point being in the conversation. Number 1. Overuse of military vehicles. Now all these were the mistakes made by the cast, which were all led by one man, the director. He had the responsibility of delivering an enjoyable or at the very least a watchable movie. Suffice to say, he failed to achieve that. One of the major mistakes made by the director was the overuse of military planes and helicopters. It seemed as if every other shot was overshadowed by some sort of military vehicle, which was either present in the background or foreground. It seemed as if the director was a huge fan of the military, and so he felt that he had to put as many references of being on a base as he could. Now this might be understandable or even excusable because this was one of the very few movies that have ever been allowed to shoot inside a military base. All in all, this much intrusion by military references diverted the audience from the actual message of the movie, which encompassed compassion and kindness. Now, based on the details mentioned above, it is evident that the movie Operation Christmas Drop is not worth it. It could have been improved if Netflix had hired some better writers. A few actors with experience would not have been bad either. In the end, if you want to watch a good movie, skipping this one might be in your best interest. This brings us to the end of our video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, then let us know by liking the video. Stick around for more amazing content, as we will be soon seeing you in another video. Until then, take care and goodbye.